Why not get France to do it? Sorry, I'm joking. Joking.
Okay. So, France, have you joined our sessions before?
Sorry?
Have you joined the Community Connect before?
I haven't connected on these webinars before, but I have been last year. I've been part of the SAPICS, those meetings that we had. I think I did the one in Rivonia the one time where we got together.
Oh, it could have been a networking session.
Yeah, a networking one. Yeah.
So
I think it was at Barloworld's premises, the old premises for Barloworld. Yeah.
Okay. Was it a DDMRP thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I
And
remember.
Mamadou, have you been here before?
Dr. Ngom to you.
Sorry, not Dr. Ngom.
Yeah, Dr. Ngom.
Dr. Ngom's he's been many times.
Has he? Okay.
Beaucoup de temps, oui. Il est regular.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So normally we have a vast group of people that join us on a Thursday afternoon. Where they've all disappeared to today, I don't know. It's anybody's guess. With the wind blowing like it is in Joburg, it could be that they've all been blown away. I don't know. But this afternoon in our week 19, we're planning on talking about where we are with COVID-19 and ASCAnation citizenship. So France, it's normally a very informal session and it's intended to spark discussion between the participants. So you are going to be doing lots of talking today. So I'm just going to be, I would say, don't be shy, say hello. I think that, that both of you have introduced yourselves and said hi. So we can skip past that one quite quickly. So if we look at where we are in terms of COVID-19 now, it seems that we may have spiked and we may be on our way down. But that being said, this is positive, of course. We have to be cautious of a second wave. So what is that going to mean for us in terms of our supply chains and how we continue to move forward in the era of the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19? So everybody's back at work. A lot of people are back at work. We, from a SAPICS point of view, we're still working remotely from home, but the vast majority of people have gone back to work now. And I think that there is a lot of adjustment that's had to take place in the way you work, the way you interact with your colleagues. I mean, your premises have to be cleaned regularly, I suppose, depending on your industry. And people are walking around with heaven knows what on their faces to be protected. So lots of adjustments, people back at work, people getting back to regular business as it would. However, we have learned lots during our COVID and Zoom meeting times. One of them is not muting your mic is the new reply to all. There have been lots of people that have had outbursts while their microphones are still on. So they've been caught out. We've had people running around in their underwear that have been caught on camera. And there are people that have entire conversations and do not realize that they were muted the entire time. So there's been a few lessons to be learned in terms of how we are conducting ourselves in meetings in the new norm. There's a new protocol for all that. So what do we need to be doing now amidst COVID-19 and moving forward out of this COVID phase, possibly looking at a second wave? So we need to instill confidence in employees, customers, suppliers, and stakeholders. Safety is obviously top of everybody's mind, and we need to make sure that our employees and customers know that it's safe to operate and to work. And for organizations that are in the retail industry, for example, that the shops and the company premises are safe, restaurants are safe to enter, etc. So there's a lot of work that's had to go into that and at vast expense to many of the organizations. I think in one Community Connect session, we had a lady from I&J, I think it was, and it had cost them millions and millions of rands to comply to the safety regulations related to COVID. Of course, looking at business plans and relaying realistic messages to suppliers and stakeholders to instill confidence across the operations. Don't commit to something that you can't deliver. Don't, overpromise, underdeliver. Be realistic about what it is you're able to achieve and how you're able to do it. Keep messaging. Communication is key. Keep talking, keep communicating, especially if you're anticipating any changes. And I think that we always talk about communication, but it's not always something we do very effectively. And I think people are probably practicing better communication now amidst COVID because they're forced to do it, which is not a bad thing because we can all improve on communication. So review your operations for nimbleness. And I mean, they always say, what, Jack, be nimble, Jack, be quick. Jack jumped over the candlestick. I mean, that's an old phrase I remember for when I was younger. But you need a relaunch map. So you need to ensure all parties involved are aware of their responsibilities. Do your team and your suppliers and the people that you work with know what they need to be doing with your relaunch and your changes that are happening within the business. Plans for short-term speed breakers. Have the right people involved who can quickly review and adapt plans if need be. So you're going to have bumps across the road. It's like hitting a speed bump at fast speed. It's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot more of this. I think we're still going to see shock waves coming back as a backlash. And we need to be prepared for this. But we need to have the right people that have the agility and the know-how and the knowledge to quickly respond to that. And work to revive, demand, and reboot operations with a close lookout for signals and red flags. Know what you're looking for and keep your eye out for anything that potentially could interrupt your business, your operations, etc. I mean, when we're looking at demand, obviously demand is a big issue for everybody. I mean, half the time now, I don't think people know exactly what it is, when they need, how they need. If you look at the breweries, for example, if you look at the British American tobaccos of this world, what are they looking like now, given the current state of where we are? Alcohol's allowed, then it's not allowed. You're allowed cigarettes, you're not allowed. So that's a stop, start on your demand, which obviously has a ripple effect or a backlash into the business. So you need to reshape and you need to be resilient. So you need to reshape your strategy to maintain business continuity and build resilience. But in order to do that, you need to know your supply chain. You need to know your supply chain in and out. And one of the things I think COVID has forced us to do is to look at our supply chains more critically and not make any assumptions about anything. So fundamental and structural changes will inevitably need to happen. And we've been forced to make them happen. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you need something severe, as hard as this, to take a real look at your business and how you're running it and what needs to be changed. So you will be exposed to where are your skills gaps, where are your shortages, where technology failed you. There are any number of things that would come through in a situation like this. And this is where companies have now had to stand up and acknowledge their flaws and recreate and relook at strategies in order to move forward post COVID-19, because we know that nothing is going to be normal like that. And I think one of the things that sits specifically in this area is looking at localization and onshoring. So what do we do to strengthen our ability and contribute to the economy, which is going to be creating local manufacturing. So risk review and stress test. So I think most companies, it's safe to say that most companies have been caught out with COVID-19. There is nobody that could have anticipated this. Sure, we all have a risk plan and it's probably on a shelf somewhere and we've got the whole thing mapped out. But I don't think in any shape or form there's any organization that can say, we were equipped for this. We knew how to deal with it. I would be very surprised if they were fully equipped for the size of this type of disruption. However, I think that companies now will sit up and pay attention and pay more attention to risk moving forward and to make sure that they are entirely covered. You know, they plan for, I don't know, tsunamis or strikes or things like this. This is a whole different ballgame altogether. So the risk is on the radar, and hopefully companies are going to take that on board and work towards changing the focus on risk and making sure it's top of mind. So once you have a good understanding of all the flows, relationships, and data in the system, it is important to carry out a full risk review from end-to-end supply chain view. So just because we are now amidst COVID, it doesn't mean that your focus on risk should stop. In fact, you should be more in tune with the risk potential within your supply chain. And you need to regularly stress test the operations, not only from a commercial cost perspective, from an operational stability and demand fulfillment view. So the idea here is to include a group of people. So customers, suppliers, people that you're close to, people that you can rely on for critical feedback, honest feedback, and that can help you to test the organization to see how flexible and how resilient it is to absorb the shock of some type of I don't know, risk should anything as bizarre as this ever happen again. But they need to be and give you an unbiased view. So they need to be honest and tell you, no, listen, this is not going to work, or yeah, it's okay, we need a bit of tweaking here and there. So there's a lot to be considered, and I think ongoing stress tests and risk assessments are something that companies have to take on board, and they simply have to do. And I think that everybody here would agree with me. Does anybody have any comments thus far? I know a lot of you joined in quite late, so I hope you didn't miss out on too much. Anybody here that's got that had a foolproof risk plan or procedure for their organization that COVID didn't trip them up? I'm going to go with a no on that one. Okay. Whoops. So, scenario planning is something that I think is another thing that's often talked about that doesn't necessarily get done. Scenario modeling tool that will allow you to assess your supply chain dynamically, to plan better and keep your finger on the pulse. You need to have the finger on your pulse of your supply chain all the time. You need to know what's going on every step of the way. And when we talk about visibility, end-to-end supply chain, that's what needs to be happening. And it doesn't. It's not happening enough, and people don't have visibility. If you look at, for example, COVID now with the suppliers, first, second, third tier suppliers, do you have sight to them? Do you have visibility? Do you know what they're doing? Do you know are they able to provide? What was your backup plan? So you need to play out different scenarios to see how your companies or your supply chain is going to respond to those. And the new normal is probably the most overused term in reference to COVID-19, and rightly so. I quite frankly am sick and tired of hearing about the new normal. They need to come up with another phrase or another word or something that explains it, because it's overdone. It's really overdone. But COVID has not only brought change, but with change, it brings chance. So there are a lot of casualties as a result of COVID-19, but it's also created opportunities. So it swings and roundabouts, where there are organizations that have struggled and have taken a real hit and taken strain, and lots of businesses have closed down as a result. There are opportunities that have come through in other avenues as a result of this pandemic. So we need to be cognizant of that, but we also need to make sure that we're able to pivot and adapt. So what is it that we can do? What is it that our business can do, or new products that we can bring out, or how we can adapt and change to make sure that we are sustainable moving forward. So one of the things that this has affected is consumer behavior. People are behaving differently, and there's a number of reasons for that. People are buying a lot online. People don't have the same amount of money anymore. People have cut out luxuries. So there are a number of different elements to consumer spending and how that's changing. And companies need to be prepared for that. So, I mean, I imagine that the retail sector, top-end retail sector is really going to feel it, because, you know, let's be honest, you can have clothes and then you can have clothes. So women like to buy clothes, they like to shop, but when your budget has been compressed and really shrunken, you're not going to be doing that. You're not going to be spending that money because you need to be doing other things with it. So the working environment has changed. I think the working environment has changed forever. You know, we are all zoomed out. We are online meetings to death. It is, to a degree, it's exhausting. And I'm pretty sure, if you give me a show of hands here, because there's a little blue hand somewhere, show me somebody that's not online meeting exhausted. I'm sure there must be a term or a phrase for it, because it just seems that it's one meeting after another after another. Before, when you were attending meetings, you would drive to a customer and you would drive back. So you would have some time in the car to reflect. You'd have some time to gather your thoughts. That's not the case anymore. You're literally going from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. And there are more meetings that would normally wouldn't have happened, because now you are not limited to seeing a customer in Cape Town, when they can come to you and sit and talk to you and have dialogue like this. I mean, Dr. Ngom is here all the way from Senegal, am I right? My memory's also shot during this time. So he's now able to join the conversation. So a lot more people are able to engage and interact and network, but at the same time, it's got its downside, where it just seems that the working hours don't stop. People are not managing their time. Their personal time is being lost to business time, because they're not switching off, because they're working at home. And those are just some of the things. So change planning mechanisms. You know, how organizations are planning, how they are managing their planning functions and mechanisms within the organization, I think will change forever. So you need to, and we have a few DDMRP enthusiasts. Is that the right word even? Anyway, they are fully in support of the demand-driven material requirements planning methodology that's been around now for a couple of years, and it's really growing in adoption. And I think that the businesses that were running on DDMRP and using the methodology have fared much better than those that had not. In fact, Ken Titmus wrote an article on DDMRP and his wine, and how he had used the DDMRP buffers to secure his wine stock for during lockdown. And when everybody else was finished with their wine, he still had wine. So there's some consideration to be given to how are you going to take your planning forward, and how is your business going to do its planning moving forward. And of course, it has changed the supply chain landscape. It has forced us to change. Supply chain management will never be the same after this, whether we believe it or not. I think it's fundamentally changed forever. Whether it's for the good, for the bad, I can only think that it can be for the good. We have to believe that, but it's changed the face of supply chain forever. So please, can we just reset? There are lots of jokes going around about, 2020, and can we just start again? Can we skip 2020, get into 2021? It's been a really, really hard year. And I think as a country, as an economy, from a personal perspective, from a family perspective, from earning revenue perspective. It is literally has affected every facet of our lives. And I mean, I'm fortunate that it hasn't affected me. I'm still working and earning a salary. But there are many people they've lost 2 incomes. Both people have been retrenched. It's tough. There are millions of people that have been laid off. So, you know, how do we recover from this, and how do we build our economy back up again? It wasn't great to start with, and now we find ourselves in this situation. But we need to be mindful of the fact that, you know, if this was a roller coaster ride, which I think that's probably a nice way of putting it, the next 6 months are not going to be any easier. And we need to be mindful of that. We need to be on our game all the time. We need to be alert. We need to be watching. We need to be paying attention, because we are still going to have red flags. We are still going to have things happening that are going to give shockwaves to our supply chains. And we need to be cognizant of that all the time. We need to be prepared for almost anything at this stage. But in the coming months, we're going to see some very interesting changes. And we will be looking forward to a new phase in supply chain management. I said previously that it will change the landscape of supply chain forever. We will be looking to a new phase in supply chain management, what it looks like, how it works, the type of skill sets that are required, how technology is used. I don't think there's any way that it can possibly remain the same. And I'd like to ask for some thoughts from any of you on what you think about supply chain management moving forward, post-COVID. Everybody's very quiet today. No comments. No thoughts on this one.
Please, Dr. Ngom.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like have your idea about resistance related at changing. You know, changing is not easy. Can you think about resistance, how much we must do for boosting the changing?
Yeah, so Dr. Ngom actually sent a message through the chat just saying, how do we adapt? How do we teach people how to change better and stop them being so resistant to change?
So I think it's by nature that the majority of people are reluctant or resistant to change. You know, and it depends by how much. So some people are quite happy to adapt a little bit. Some people are quite happy to adapt a lot. It depends on the personality. But there's no question in it that we have to change. How do we do that? So it's a difficult one to answer, really, because we've never had to change like this before. I mean, unless you go back to back in the times where they were dealing with war and all sorts of things like that. But it comes back to, I think, leadership. It comes back to community. It comes back to networking. It comes back to community. So I think there are different elements involved to getting people to change, helping them understand the need for change, what change means, and how that's going to help them to fit into this new norm that we find ourselves in. Jenny?
I was just going to say that I put a post in the thing saying that at the ASCA event, Chantal Wilson did a presentation on change management. I don't know if Dr. Ngom saw that, but I'll try and find the video and send it to everybody, because I think that it was apparently the feedback was that it was extremely useful.
I did not attend that session, but we can definitely share that if there's value in it. But I mean, I'd like to hear other people's thoughts on this. I mean, how are you dealing with change? How are you dealing with change in your workplace with your employees? What is your thinking?
This is Claire speaking. From my side, I think, as you said, with change, change is one of those things. There's always resistance in the beginning, but I think the thing with COVID-19 is that we've seen that this is not just affecting South Africa. It's not just affecting one company. It's affecting the global community. So I think it's easier to drive that change when people know that it's not just them suffering, for that change. Then it's easier to be able to show people the need for the change to begin with and the reasons for the change. But I also think especially in companies, especially global companies, it's always good that it gets driven from the top, where that message comes through from the top that, guys, this is the new change that needs to happen. And yes, the next few months, the next few years are actually going to be one of the most rocky years that we're ever going to see, in terms of supply chain, in terms of procurement, those kind of things. So we do need to buckle up because it's going to be something that we're not even accustomed to. I think a lot of us in our profession, we wouldn't have gone through this kind of disruptions ever in our career. This is going to be one of the many, but I think it's actually an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow and then use this going forward. And I think use it in terms of building new ways of working, building new mechanisms, building even how people develop in supply chain. I think that will also change as well. As you say, the new normal. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to see things also from a different perspective, because now the ripple effect is so huge that no one would have ever imagined it. But now it's there, it's in front of us, and we can actually do something about it and learn from it.
Thank you, Kia. That was a lot of positive insight.
You gotta stay positive, or else you'll go crazy.
No, you're right, but you have put a positive spin on it, and your points are really, really good, and I think that we are making history here. Whatever we do here, we are making history. Susan, you had your hand up. I'm not sure. Did you want to add something?
Yes, I represent. Well, I'm part of the procurement in our supply chain function for Tenova. We're a global company. We're an Italian-based company. We're a technology-based company, but we do a lot of submerged arc furnaces worldwide. So for us, our little, what they call the global village has become very small all of a sudden in terms of risk and going abroad for fabrication. And we've had to really change the way we think about inspections. We used to have to go and inspect the fabrication. Now we have to do virtual inspections via technology platforms. And well, that's still in proofing, so we don't know if it's going to work, because what you see on the other side of the camera is not necessarily what you see with your own eyes. So yeah, more about this later when we get the results back of stuff that's been fabricated all over the world.
That's an interesting way to do inspections. Yeah, but I mean, it forces you to. So in a lot of aspects, the way that we change is going to save us money to some extent, because now we don't necessarily need to travel to Durban, Cape Town, wherever. We could have these sessions online. So if that works, that could really, add some to the bottom line there, which I think everybody needs.
But I also think in saying that the people that are going to make decisions in the future to procure will do a lot more local procurement for local fabrication because of the risk involved. And depending on how strategic the equipment is as to whether a virtual inspection is good enough, we'll have to see.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know how that goes.
I will do.
You'll have to let us know how that goes, because that's an interesting dynamic, that is.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to add a comment here? See, Ken popped in at the last minute here. Okay, and popped out again. Okay, so the important thing to this is you can't do this alone. Okay, no man is an island, but we have got you covered. And for a number of reasons, because a lot of our success now and our ability to learn new things, to adapt, to change, is going to be something that you get from a community, something that comes from your profession, something that comes from your professional peers. And that's what SAPEX is all about. So SAPEX is all about being there for the community, providing you with solutions, educating you, connecting you, providing networking platforms. That's what we do. And that's what hopefully adds value to all of you and to our members, because it's part of what our mandate is to do. But so last week, I think it was last week, we had ASCA, African Supply Chain Action. I don't know, were any of you here at that event?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's what I like to hear. So it was, by all accounts, now I mean we are biased. It was a really good event. From a technological point of view, it's all new to all of us. These platforms are all new to all of us. So it was all a learning curve. But I think that the event provided an excellent platform for networking and engagement. And it wasn't just South Africa. It was from across the African continent. So we just missed reaching 1,000 participants. Oh dear, look at these slides. We had 60 speakers, 5 tracks running concurrently on end-to-end supply chain topics, and we had people from 44 different countries. But that ASCA virtual conference was just the beginning. So we wanted to just start something and get people invested and let them understand what the benefit of something bigger than this could be. And we have started now the journey, which will continue, and that is the ASCAnation. So what is ASCAnation? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? ASCAnation is a platform that is going to host regular webinars. We will have mentorship programs. We will have networking sessions, VIP discussions, special interest groups. We have a quiz we held at the ASCA virtual event. So we'll have the brain of ASCA. We're going to challenge you to some thinking and some competitive stuff, ongoing networking, and just generally a platform that allows us to connect with our peers, like-minded professionals, to share ideas, share our thoughts, and work together on solutions, bring together a collective voice so that we are speaking as one. You know, Africa has, as a continent, we have unique challenges. You know, we don't have the same challenges as Europe and the US, and we need to learn from each other, and we need to help each other to grow and develop. And there is some incredible things going on in the African continent. You know, in some areas, we really are at the forefront of technological advancement, on warehousing distribution centers, top class, world class operations going. We need to learn from that. We don't always need to look to Europe and the US for solutions. We have a lot of our own solutions and opportunities to grow and develop right here in Africa. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be tapping into that potential and that skill and sharing it out and working together as a collective to work through this, because we can. And we've never done this before, but the discussions that were happening last week at the event were absolutely incredible. The ideas that were being shared, you know, people are sharing their experiences and how things are working, how things are not working. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be working together to improve our economies, to improve our skill sets, to improve everything that's supply chain related. So, okay, so I'd like to encourage you all to engage with ASCAnation. So what it basically means is it's a platform that's open. All the people that attended the ASCA virtual event are now citizens of the ASCA platform. So you would have basically a visa for 6 months to participate in the various activities and events that we will be hosting in the platform. Those of you that didn't attend the virtual event, you can still join the platform. There will be a joining fee. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what that is, but we can share that with you when we send out the follow-up information from the session. And I would strongly encourage you to join. For the cost, it's a minimal cost. I know it's by no means exorbitant. It's very, very reasonable, and you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. While you may learn one simple thing that could change your business, you could help somebody to revolutionize their business. You may have an idea or solution that they can take away and do something great with. So it is a responsibility for everybody, and I think I talk about this every week. Supply chain professionals, we are responsible for looking after the profession, for growing the profession, for developing the future pipeline of talent that's coming into the profession. And through this platform, we can help to achieve that. It also breaks down the barriers between public sector supply chain and private sector supply chain. You know, we've had this constant battle. I know in South Africa, and I think predominantly it's a problem throughout Africa, where for some reason people believe that there's a difference. There isn't. The generic underpinning supply chain principles are the same, whether you're in private or public sector supply chain. It's the same as a supply chain in different industry verticals. So whether you're in oil or gas or whether you're in retail, so the general principles for supply chain are the same. But there are adaptations in the different industries that you're in. And I think the sooner that we can create people that are jobbable between public and private sector, the better it'll be for everybody. If we can build a better skill base in the public sector, it's going to help all of us at the end of the day, because there are a lot of highly skilled people in public sector, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done in skilling people in supply chain. Because they understand it to be procurement, they lose sight of the rest of what's going on in the supply chain. And that has a massive kickback and impact on the rest of the supply chain. Jenny always talks about the Limpopo textbook story. You know, it was great. They got the textbooks, they bought them, they got them at a good price, and then they sat in a warehouse. Because there was no thought given to the rest of the supply chain and how these textbooks were going to get to where they needed to be, to the consumer, you know. So lots to think about. I would encourage all of you to get involved. There's an opportunity for all of you to add something. There's nowhere that you will just sit on a bench and be a spectator. You will all have opportunity to participate, and I have no doubt that all of you have something enormous to contribute to the African supply chain nation. So I have done a lot of talking. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add, any questions that they'd like to ask about ASCAnation or the discussion that we've had this afternoon? No?
Well, the presentations and this sort of conference with the ASCAnation happen year on year, or is this now a once-off?
Jenny, would you like to answer that? Yeah, sure. Let me put my thing on high. The intention was originally that it was just going to be a one-off, because both Smart Procurement and SAPIX have their own events, and we didn't want to cannibalize each other, if you like. But I think we found such a great niche for this gathering of people in a non-threatening, neutral environment that speaks totally to Africans. And I think that the agreement is that we will try to make this an annual event, but keep it virtually. If people, because the starting thing about it was that for the first time ever, people who would never ever have had the opportunity to attend an event like SAPEX or like the Smart Procurement at Daba, suddenly there was this amazing opportunity for them to be able to have access to some of this networking and community building. And I think that that's still really, really true. And I think that at least for the next year, travel is not going to be getting any easier. If anything, it's going to get harder and it's going to get more expensive. So there will even be those people who used to be able to go to a SAPEX conference who probably won't get permission anymore. The whole sort of conference event management field is changing beyond any of our expectations. So long answer, the quick answer is that no, it's not a once-off. Yes, it will happen again. And the ongoing momentum, I think, will make that happen anyway. So we were talking about later in the year, next year. We were just waiting to do some research. We're waiting for the Smart Procurement team to do some research on what other events there are out there so that we don't clash, but it will definitely happen again.
All right, great news.
But I think certainly for, I posted earlier on, and for me, one of the COVID silver linings, which Keir, you were talking about being positive. I don't know any of you who were brought up with Pollyanna and Pollyanna thinking. For me, it's that daily trying to find one silver lining in all of this. And every day I am reminded that it has meant that we can engage far more regularly with our members and with our members who are not based in South Africa. And, we would never have had this 6-month engagement with Dr. Ngom, for instance, who's dialing in from Senegal. And for me, that's really exciting, and that's a real positive out of all of this. And it's a way in which we are changing and have embraced change, because we're not frightened of online networking anymore.
Some people are still.
Yeah, some people are still. But it's like, Tonya and I spent the last, I don't know, 5 years being told, you've got to do webinars, you've got to do online webinars. And we kept saying, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's too scary. And March came and we didn't even have a second thought. We just went for it. And I think that, that's what it's teaching us. But like I put in the chat, it's all very well expecting people to do it on their own. It's so much easier if you're doing it together.
Agreed. Melissa, did you have your hand up, or were you just waving? Just waving. Okay, so I'm going to, I just want to bring your attention to some upcoming events that are happening, I think in the next week. So there is an event. Oh dear. Okay, this is the same time as this. I didn't realize that when I put on the slide. There's a webinar on advanced production scheduling. Coming up, we have a webinar with Ken talking about the 9 demand-driven operations model assumptions. So anybody that's wanting to dabble a bit with the DDMRP methodology, that's a good one. And obviously Community Connect again next week.
Can I add one to that? Sorry. Yes. I just want to add one that I'm going to send out the details for now. On the 2nd of September, I think, the ASCM health team, general health team that are working on the creation of the maturity model as part of the Gates Foundation grant, they're doing a webinar. It's quite late our time, but it is pre-recorded. So they're doing a webinar on the maturity model, how it works, what it's going to do, how it's going to help assess supply chain maturity in the 3 countries, Senegal, Nigeria, and Kenya. And I think for anyone who's interested in the public health supply chain aspect and you can stay up late, it will be worth attending. So there you are, Dr. Ngom, I did the plug.
Yeah, allez.
Très bien.
Okay, merci Jenny. Thank you very much.
So it's good to have you all with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out to be with us. It's always good to engage with our community and our members. And we just love engaging with you. So I look forward to seeing you all at either the next SAPEX event or definitely on the ASCA platform, where we can take some new discussions to new places. So have a super afternoon further, everybody, and I look
Enjoy the
forward to
warmth.
you soon. Yes, spring is coming.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Bye, Kia.
Well done on your exam pass.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always good to have that out the way.
Clever clogs. Yes. Bien sûr, Dr. Ngom.